Okay, welcome to video 2. Here we're going to be talking about factor by grouping method. So remember I said we're going to do this at the beginning of every day. So what are the methods of factoring? They are greatest common factor or GCF, grouping, difference of two perfect squares or D2PS, and trinomial factoring. So today we're going to focus on a new one, grouping. So to factor by grouping, we need to group terms with parentheses in pairs of 2. So we're grouping 2 things together. Then we'll find a GCF within each parentheses, write the common factor in parentheses, and then in a second set of parentheses, write the remaining terms from left to right. So in this first example that I look at, I can actually see that this is set up a little different. I can't group terms with parentheses in pairs of 2 because I have more than 2 things. But this one has a specific case where there is a 2x minus 1 in parentheses already. So this is kind of already started as grouping, factor by grouping. That is common in both. So what do we do with something that's common factor in both of these since it's being multiplied? Well, that makes 2x minus 1 a greatest common factor. So that means I need to divide that out from both sides. And now, just like when we divided in the previous one and we had these common factors, anything divided by itself, so this 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 1, cancels out. So we put the greatest common factor first, so it's just more than one thing this time. It's 2x minus 1, whereas in the previous day we only had like one thing, such as 5x or 3. They were monomials. Now we just have a binomial that's taken out. So I write the binomial first. And then if we look at our steps for factoring by grouping, we write that common factor in parentheses out front. That's the first step. And then in a second set of parentheses, write the remaining terms from left to right. So that's the things that I don't have highlighted. And the reason it's the things that I don't have highlighted is because the 2x minus 1 is all grouped together. That entire group cancels with this one. And the same thing here. So all that's left is this 6x on the left and the negative 5 on the right. So now that's my final answer here, and you can see that I've highlighted the things that were left over that went into the second parenthesis, the 6x minus 5 in pink, and then the greatest common factor was highlighted in purple. So highlighters will help you with factoring by grouping. And the next thing I want to talk about is how to check. We talked about multiplying back out, but this one is going to be a little bit harder to multiply back out. I have a binomial times a binomial, which would mean I need an area model just to make sure that I end up with this, and they might not exactly match. So we can always go to y equals, and we can put this 6x times 2x minus 1 minus 5 times 2x minus 1, and then the 2x minus 1 times 6x minus 5, and when we go to the table, those should match. Okay, let's do one more example together. So here we actually do have more of the original idea of grouping the terms in parentheses in pairs of 2. So I have 4 terms here, so I'm going to group the first 2 and second 2 together. And when doing this, be careful to make sure that you keep the sign with whatever the third term is here. So 2x cubed minus 5x squared and 10x minus 25. What's the GCF in the first 2? Well, I think that they have an x squared common in both. Now that x squared comes first and the leftovers get written in parentheses. So we can see here the x squared became out front and we were left with 2x minus 5. And then what's the GCF in the second 2? Well, I think that it's a 5. So we've done what we just did in the previous video. We just did it twice. So I factored out the x squared, put it first, and put the leftovers in parentheses. But then I had to do it again over here, and I kept the sign to show that this and this are not connected with multiplication. They're actually connected with that addition. Okay, the next thing I see now is it looks more like what we did in the first example. And I have this 2x minus 5 common in both of them. So that's going to be written out first. That's the greatest common factor. If you want, you can show it being divided by that. So now we have here that 2x minus 5 canceled with the 2x minus 5, and 2x minus 5 canceled with 2x minus 5. We wrote the GCF out first, and now we're going to open a new set of parentheses and write the leftovers, which is this x squared plus 5. I could rewrite this if I wanted to with the x squared plus 5 first and then the 2x minus 5 second just because of the degree of the polynomial, but at least for now we can just kind of get the idea of what we're doing. And that's the answer for that one. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Have a good night.